Hey everybody, and welcome to another episode of Nerds with Friends. My name is Cody, and as always, I'm joined by Christian Garcia.
Senor. Hola.
Everyone. Hola. And then joined via Skype is our friend Tim Eldridge Blast Price.
Woo woo! Hey guys.
What's up, man? Welcome to the program.
I'm excited to be here.
Yeah. Tim plays D&D with us every week. Famous for throwing Eldritch Blast all the time, sometimes unsuccessfully.
You had to throw
Sometimes
that in
they
there.
hit.
Sometimes they do hit, though, yeah. And we brought him on because he seems to be the only person we've met who's as big a Stephen King fan as us. So we'll be talking today about the CBS All Access / Paramount Plus now program, The Stand. So there will be some spoilers later in the episode about that. But hopefully you guys have all seen it because it is fantastic. But more on that later. Before that, let's talk about, you can check out our website, nerdswithfriendspodcast.com, for all of our Twitter, Instagram, Facebook info. You can also support us on patreon.com/nerdswithfriends. It's a great way to support the show. We actually have a new patron. Did you see?
No, I did not.
It's your brother.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Thanks, bro.
Yeah. David Garcia is now a tier member, and he is he actually paid for the tier where he gets to suggest episodes for us.
Oh, nice.
So that'll be interesting. I'm excited to see what he has in store for us. So thank you, David, for...
If you're listening, David, pick a movie that Cody's going to hate.
Oh, God.
I want to challenge him to be creative.
Yeah.
Like, if he's going to pick an episode, let's get out there.
Yeah. We kind of suggested... we kind of suggested last episode Pup Play, which is a fun one where people like dress up like puppies and I don't know.
Isn't that furries?
Do weird sex stuff with each other.
Furry stuff.
No, these ones are mostly naked, but with like a puppy mask, and then they go on all fours and stuff. Furries tend to, this could be the episode, Christian. We're burning content.
Yeah,
here.
I know.
But furries dress in the full furry suit and walk upright like human beings mostly. So
Got
it's
it.
anthropomorphizing them.
So the Chuck E. Cheese versus actually like someone being on the ground.
Yeah, exactly.
Got it. Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yep. I assume it's like a dominant submissive thing.
Maybe.
Who knows?
I don't know. We'll get someone to explain it to us, maybe. I don't know.
More on that later. If you support us on Patreon, you can decide to make us talk about that. But let's get down to business. Let's do some nerdy confessions where we confess the things that make us nerds. Christian, what do you got?
Started Sweet Home, and it was like it's trending on Netflix, and it's like doing really well. And like I saw the little preview for it, I'm like, oh, they've got these cool monsters. And then I got to like fourth episode, and like I kind of lost interest. Like I didn't know where it was going.
So what's it about?
So it's about this like really shitty building in Korea. Yeah, and it's mostly following this kid who like his parents die, and he has no one, so he has to live in this shit place.
Mm-hmm.
And then people start getting nosebleeds, and then they start turning into monsters. But the monsters don't all make sense. They all don't turn into the same kind of monster. You can't kill them. You can like fuck them up for a little bit. And it just like, I'm waiting for it to make more sense, and maybe I'll pick it up again. Or maybe anyone who's listening, tell me on Twitter, like, hey, am I fucking wrong? Should I continue? Did I give up too soon? I don't know. But I kind of lost interest.
Huh. Sounds interesting. What was
I will say, though, the special effects for the nosebleeds, like, it's not CG. No. That's the thing, that it looks like almost like a gallon is coming out, and it's not CG. It's like practical effects. And that's the part that got me for a bit. I'm like, dude, how are they doing that? Like,
everyone's wearing like a perfect face mask of their own face with pipes like pumped up.
Well,
underneath.
That's the thing. I was thinking like maybe through the mouth up to the nose, and then like, but I mean that seems super fucking.
Or
painful.
maybe they just came up with something that like is like CO2 powered that they just jam up their actual nose.
There's no way the amount they could fit in there. Like I'm talking,
Who knows?
like 20 ounces of blood like will come out.
Jeez.
Yeah, that's like how.
That's like a Pepsi.
So I'm like that part was kind of cool. Anyone in practical effects, if you're fucking listening, I would love to know how the fuck they did that.
Yeah, Tim might have some input on that. Tim works in some movie magic stuff.
I've never seen anything like that. I know the tube through the mouth to the nostrils is not going to happen. Just because with every actor, there's that level of physical comfort that the producers and special effects are not going to cross.
Sure.
capsules, but then again, you're talking 20 ounces. How are you going to fit all that into a small capsule?
It's insane.
Maybe it was like a fluid effect or something from.
No, if it was CG, it was fucking the best. And I know it's not the CG because some of the CG monsters look really bad. So like, why would you spend the dollars on the blood?
Because all of it went to the nosebleeds. All of the CG budget. They're like, the blood needs to look great. Monsters, whatever. Throw a trash bag on them.
I would say at least check out the show for that.
What was it called again?
Sweet Home.
Sweet Home.
Sweet Home.
Okay. My nerdy confession is it's also Netflix related. I recently binged an entire series in basically one day. That's how I spend my days off nowadays. Is just.
Is this the tween show that?
No, I've already finished that. I binged that one too. That was called Winx.
It's called Fate.
The Winx saga.
But it's based off the Winx saga.
That's right.
Yes,
that's right. I forgot.
I binged that in one day as well. So.
Yeah. Yes. See, it was good.
I mean, I'm gonna watch this as both of you. I mean, if you guys liked it, I'll check it out.
But the new one I just finished was called The Tribes of Europa, and I think it's a Czechoslovakian series, but it's dubbed over in English, and you can tell that there's some of the actors who just read their lines in English. And other ones were speaking either German or some other, Eastern European language. And it was pretty cool. It's basically like set in the future. And, there's been some sort of blackout event that kind of wiped out all technology and crumbled society. And now there's just tribes all over the place. And it's kind of like a Mad Max type thing, except not so desert. It's, there's still forests, and there's like a forest tribe, a city tribe, a, ocean tribe. And, there's some people who go on an adventure in it. That's all I'll really say about it, but it's pretty cool. Some cool action, and it's really interesting seeing the different tribes, like the bad guy tribe called the Crows. They're just basically a bunch of like raver kids who got too much power. They have like crazy rave parties. And like everyone's dancing and like doing drugs and stuff together. I'm like, man, that'd be the tribe that I'd be all about. But then they also have like, fight to the death cage matches.
Yeah, not so much.
Yeah. I mean, you can't agree with all of their ideas, we take the good with the bad. But yeah, it's called Tribes of Europa. So
that one actually sounds cool too.
Yeah, it's pretty interesting. Though it left on a cliffhanger, and who knows when we'll ever find out more about it. So, we'll see what happens. Tim, how about you? What's a nerdy confession for you?
Well, I'm going to hit you with two.
Okay.
The first one
like the
is
Eldritch Blast.
Since two Eldritch Blasts. The first one, since January, I have on my iPad read in its entirety while watching the show on Netflix, Bleach.
Ooh, Bleach. Yeah, that's a good one.
From the, 2000s
Shonen Jump,
early 2000s areas, Shonen Jump. I'm sad to say that I spent that amount of time on it just between January and now, because that really shows how much of nothing I've been doing.
So yeah, for those people who don't know, Bleach is like, I think the anime itself is like 200 episodes long. So, and I think, if I'm not mistaken, the manga actually went on longer than the show. So you were doing some reading.
Yes, the manga has 600 and almost 70 chapters.
Jeez,
I think it's
Louise.
And the thing was, I was watching the show and reading at the same time, so I'd stop watching the show, read a couple chapters, and then catch up in the show while I was reading ahead, and back and forth. And then, of course, that typical thing where the manga got ahead of the show and vice versa at times, so the story's kind of diverted.
Yeah.
And the anime never actually completed the storyline of the manga. So that was cool to see the different storylines that they come up with.
And how close was the manga to the actual show? Like, did they stay pretty close and true to it, or was there like some stuff that went off the wall crazy?
For the first couple seasons, it all stayed together, very similar storyline, and then once the anime got ahead, they went completely left field into this whole different storyline that never actually comes up in the manga.
Oh, okay.
But then once the anime ended, the manga was still going, and so that last 2 or 3 story arcs aren't actually made into televised yet.
Interesting.
But there's still plans for it.
Oh, really? Okay.
I read that somewhere online that they are planning on making that final arc, whether it be into a movie or season show. I'm not sure, but they're still in talks about putting that out there.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I remember like the first like 2 or 3 seasons of Bleach in the actual anime was just amazing. Like the action was, unbelievable. The whole story of Ichigo and how he learns how to use his Bankai and all that kind of stuff was like fantastic. And then it started, about the time when they went to the place where everyone had the hollow masks or whatever. That was about the time I'm like, I don't know if I like this anymore. And I just kind of fell off of it. So,
and that's just after that is when it really started to divert from the written page.
Okay. Yeah, maybe I'll have to give it another shot now that you said it was on Netflix or Hulu.
First few seasons are on Netflix, and they've got the 2 movies.
Yeah, I don't know if I ever saw the movies or not. Next thing you got to check out is Naruto. Have you watched Naruto?
Naruto, I did the exact same thing, reading and watching at the beginning of the pandemic.
Okay.
And I got in trouble for watching it so much because the opening credit theme song was annoying my fiance Ashley while she was working.
Yeah.
So I quickly learned to hit that skip intro button.
There you go.
The song wouldn't play.
Kept telling her to believe it. Believe it. I'm going to be the next Hokage. Try and stop me. Well, that's awesome. I think now, when people are working from home and stuff, it's a great time if you like those really long animes. Even Dragon Ball Z like got pretty long. But Naruto, Bleach, One Piece, now's the time to like delve into those things because we got
One Piece. It's still going on.
Yeah,
with the manga.
I know.
It just broke 1,000 chapters a couple weeks ago.
It's so crazy. I tried to start it, and I don't give 2 shits about One Piece, but people love it. So who knows? Maybe I need to give it longer. But it's been on for so long that when you try to watch like it from the beginning, it's all in 4:3 aspect ratio, and so it's got the bars on the side. And like even the animation style is like super old school because it started in I think the late 80s or something like that, maybe early 90s. It's been on for a minute. So I don't know. Maybe I'll give it another shot one of these days, but I don't know. You watching animes?
Nah, dude. And I was about to tell Tim like I'm not too much into anime. I think my mind is too Western and like a lot of the.
Oh, you gotta watch it. It's so great.
A lot of the like
Cowboy
concepts.
Cowboy Bebop.
Cowboy Bebop, I do like. That was really really good. I've seen a few episodes.
Good.
Cowboy Bebop was really good. Dragon Ball Z, and I'm forgetting Studio Ghibli.
Yeah.
Like those I love, but outside of that, not too much.
Interesting.
Well, I tell you, man, the Show and Jump, and they have an app, and it's like $2 a month. It's like dirt cheap.
Okay.
And you get access to all their stuff. And I'll sit down with my iPad and just blow through chapters. And of course, it's awesome because it's set up in that black and white, comic book frame, and you're actually reading right to left, as you would if you actually had the physical manga in your hand. But you can just blow through those iPad, phone.
Yeah. I think it's. If you're into comic books, so
Sure.
It's not that big of a jump realistically, especially if you're just starting out, because there's a lot, like all the action is inferred, just like in comic books, but there's some really good ones. Like Naruto is, people hate on it because it's so popular, but it is one of the most like emotional shows out there and some of the best action ever too,
All right.
You can really find your favorite characters. I've been partial to Rock Lee for quite some time. I think he's one of the best characters out there, and people sleep on him. So don't sleep on Rock Lee. That guy's fucking awesome. And Guy Sensei, of course. But enough about anime. We got to talk about some real life things. But we're going to take a quick break, and once we come back, we're going to talk about Stephen King's The Stand on CBS All Access. So we will be right back. through movie magic, we have now taken a break and come back. Who knows what we've done? It could have been a few seconds. It could have been a few hours. But yeah, we want to talk about The Stand, which came out on CBS All Access, which is soon to be Paramount Plus or whatever the fuck they're calling it.
As long as I don't have to subscribe to something else, or as long as they don't change the price of it, it's fine.
It's twice the price, twice the commercials, and half the content.
I actually paid for the no commercials, man.
Dude.
Yes, I can.
That's definitely the worst part about using that app. Even worse than the shitty interface that it has. But so it was. This show was 9 episodes, 10 episodes, 10 episodes.
9. Yep.
9.
And I think, without spoiling anything, and we'll get into some spoilers in just a second, but without ruining anything, 9 episodes long. It's an adaptation of Stephen King's book, and there's not much difference between. There's been several versions of the book, The Stand.
Yeah, there's the 80s, the 90s.
Yeah, and then like the ultimate director's cut, author's cut.
Well, there's the stuff that the
unabridged version.
Yeah, what they'd forced him to cut, and then he put it back in.
And so this is I'd say it doesn't really adhere to any one of those because it's definitely not the unabridged one because they've cut a substantial stuff out, which you have to. That book is like 1,300 pages, something like that.
The uncut is one of his longest works.
Yeah, it's huge, and anytime you have a book, there's always going to be stuff you have to cut because, especially with Stephen King stuff, I've noticed that he has a lot of inner monologue stuff going on where the character is kind of talking through things or thinking through things themselves, and that's very hard to translate to film.
He'll also give like background of characters that aren't that important, but it just kind of enriches the story and
builds the world. Yeah. And so obviously a lot of that was cut, and then this particular version of it takes place, seemingly in our time.
Yeah,
right?
present.
People had cell phones and shit like that, which magically stopped working once the virus took over.
No one was working at the towers, dude. Who's manning the cell phones?
Yeah, there's a guy there the whole time who's just like, oh, it almost went off. I forgot to hit the button. Every half hour, I got to press this button to keep cell service on.
Good thing he was immune.
Yeah, good thing that guy was immune. He's just like, boop. Man, no one's come to relieve me in like weeks. But yeah, we're going to talk some heavy spoilers going forward. So if you have not read The Stand or seen the show, watch out. Spoiler alert. Oh, God. So first, Tim, you are a fan of Stephen King, yes?
I'm a huge fan.
Yeah, and correct me if I'm wrong, but The Stand is your favorite book by him?
The Stand is my favorite book, hands down, all time of any author.
Oh, nice.
I've read it multiple times. Sad to say, it's been maybe 2.5, 3 years since the last read through.
Sure.
But that was probably like the 5th or 6th time that I've read that story through.
Right. Yeah, Stand is definitely one of my favorite. I probably have a new all-time favorite now if I have to think about it. It's probably a Stormlight Archive book like Words of Radiance. Or no. Yeah, Words of Radiance. That's the second one, right?
Yes.
I think that's my all-time favorite book. Man, it's so good. But for a long time, it was The Stand, and Stephen King is definitely one of my favorite authors of all time. I definitely read the book when I was too young. I probably read it when I was like in, 5th grade or something like that. My mom got me started on Stephen King very early.
I bet you loved the sex pot girl like your best. Yeah, that was your favorite one, right? I forgot her name, but the one that was going to kill.
Oh, yeah, the one who was with Nick and Tom Cullen, and she tries shooting at him. Yeah. No, she was the worst person. She's the worst character ever. But, I remember reading it, and the first time I ever read this book, which, like, the overarching story of it is...
Today. It's what's happening. It's COVID.
Yeah, there's COVID. There's a pandemic of this super flu, which is referred to as multiple things, but one is Captain Trips, which comes up later in the Dark Tower series as well. Which just wipes out, all but, 10% of the population.
It was 99.4% of the population.
Wow. Okay. Somebody's autistic.
0.6% of the population.
0.6. Okay. Yeah.
I did my homework for this episode.
No, that's good. It's good. It's about time. It's about time you put some work into it.
It wiped out 7.3 billion people.
There you go. Man, you guys with the numbers. Anyway, yeah, so wipes out a lot of people. And, basically it's a story of survivors, and there's basically a good camp and a bad camp, led by two different, somewhat mystical forces. And it's kind of the story of them fighting against each other. That's the shortest I could possibly put it. But
yes, at its most basic, yeah.
It's the ultimate battle of good versus evil.
Correct. Yeah, exactly. And, the thing that makes it exceptional, though, is that there's just each of these characters has their own backstory, their own main story in this plot line. And the way they interact with each other is Stephen King is just a master of character, I think. So let's talk about how it was adapted into this show. Tim, how good of a job did they do? Are you happy with this adaptation? Do you think it was a strong one or a weak one?
Now, I think it was a little bit of both. I know it's weird taking the middle of the road. Mm-hmm. For a person who's familiar with the story, who's read it, who's seen the 90s TV miniseries,
sure,
this adaptation was great. I feel like a good way to describe it is this is the Spark Notes of The Stand.
Sure, I'd agree.
You're going to get what's important, the little bits, every scene of the adaptation. I was able to recall in the book. I was like, oh yeah, I remember when this happened. Mm-hmm. I remember, this one particular thing, yeah. Whether it be them running into the gas station in the car with Champion or, something later on. But I'm also a little disappointed because the way the new adaptation is structured.
Yeah.
If I was a person coming into this story for the first time, mm-hmm. don't know that I would get the ups and downs, those dramatic differences in the two camps, those character growths that you get from some of the other adaptations or the books. And then, of course, the book is written in a linear storyline, and the adaptation, for sake of keeping people interested, took that kind of jumping back and forth in the timeline, almost like Lost back in the day. Mm-hmm. We're going to show you this scene from what's happening now, but no, we're going to go back 5 months, and now we're back to present day, and then back 5 months. Great for television. Mm-hmm. That's a great mode to keep people interested, to keep them wanting, like, okay, what's going to happen next? Even as a person who knows what happened, I was like, okay, well, what are they going to address next?
Right.
But like I said, if you're coming into it for the first time, you lose a lot by doing that. Mm-hmm. You don't get to really get to know those characters.
Right. I think what you're saying, what you're saying is correct, because the way I see it, it's like you said, it's great for TV because it keeps the plot moving forward and keeps viewers interested. But the story, The Stand, is not necessarily driven by plot, because the plot of it is, okay, there's this virus that wipes out almost all of humanity. Then, the survivors camp into good and bad camps, and they fight each other. And that's the plot. But really the story of The Stand is the character growth between the different characters, how they interact with each other, and what separates a good person from a bad person. And I think, the question is, or the realization at the end of it is that not that much separates those two camps.
Well, that's why you can't really do this. I will say I like what they did with the 9 episodes, but mm-hmm. I agree with Tim that it wasn't, very true to the book, and it left a lot of wanting. But if someone said, like, hey, can you do this story in 9 episodes, I would have said that was fucking a great attempt at it.
Sure.
I would say, like, that was a really good attempt. I like what they did, but yeah, I mean, you don't really get the character growth of, like, I mean, they mostly kind of did it with Stu, where, like, but in the book, like, Stu gets fucking run through it, like, for a long time in the facility. Like, he has a shit, and you're like, fuck, I feel for this guy. Like, he's a good guy, and he's just trying to fucking, like, he's trying to go with the program. He's like, all right, they're trying to figure out, like, what's keeping me alive. I'm going with it. And it turns out they're fucking injecting him with the virus because at that point they're just pissed that he's not getting sick. Yeah. And it's like, you know, you didn't get that character growth with him. And also we didn't get any of it with the villains. Because some of them, like, they're not all necessarily bad people. They're just some people that felt unloved or they needed some kind of authority, you know. Like
they were ostracized by society.
Yeah, not all of them were fucking, like, murderers, but a lot of them fucking were. You know, or a lot of them were terrible people.
Yeah.
That's something, in general, I feel like that this new adaptation, this new mini-series, limited series, really missed on was the enemies in general itself.
Yeah.
In the book, even at times, you know, the early parts of the book where they're still trying to contain and resolve this virus, the military is represented as a big enemy. And you really don't see that in the show. You don't see the guys in the hazmat suits. You don't see Stu's frantic escape from the facility in the darkness, and even the character of the 4-star general.
Yeah,
the show presents him as this caring, you know, poetry Yeats reading guy.
Right.
In the book, he's straight up a villain.
Right. He's a bad dude.
Yeah, he's not reading poetry and letting Stu out. That's not the way that plays out.
Right. And even the doctor guy, I forget his name.
I did like him, even though he's not in the book.
Well, so he was in the book. So the guy who was coming talking to Stu was in the book.
But he wasn't a good person.
But he wasn't as good of a person as they made him in the show. They kind of separated his character out into the one guy who I can't remember who. Someone played him who was like a famous actor guy. And then I forget what show he was from, but it doesn't matter. But they separated his good side and bad side into two different characters, which I still really like the interaction in the show. It got its point across, but I think, you know, what was so effective in the book was that he was like playing up to be like Stu's only trusting person in this whole ordeal, and then he just completely betrays him at the end. And that's like, you know, that's what Stephen King does so well. Is he gives you a little bit of hope, and he just throws it away.
I wanted some more of the sadistic guard, because in the book it was so satisfying when he fucking dies. Mm-hmm. And they you know, it was really quick and it was really, you know, really done. Yeah, I mean, this definitely needed like more seasons if you wanted to get it, like, you know, correct.
I think the whole show would have benefited from another 10 episodes. And it bums me out that the new kind of formula for these, you know, ambitious shows is let's just do 10 episodes or let's just do 9 episodes and then that's it. It definitely works on certain things, but especially when you're adapting something that's so huge, it really could have done for at least twice as long, and it bums me out that they didn't give it a chance.
Now, everyone listening, I don't want you to think like we're nitpicking as big, huge fans. It's still a fucking great show. Still go watch it because I want more Stephen King shit. But since we're picking on it, I do want to point out the one thing that I really fucking hated was the trash can man. He was done so bad. Not anything at all like the character in the book. In the book, there's times where you feel sorry for him. You're like, oh, dude, this guy got shat on. Like, dude, they didn't bring in the kid who fucking fucked with him so much. And it's like, you see this character, like, and there's at points and times where he's thinking, like, maybe I shouldn't be doing this. Like, maybe not. Like,
maybe these guys aren't my friends.
Yeah, and it's like, you feel for him. Like, in, you know, I forget the actor's fucking name.
Ezra Miller.
Yeah, like, I don't know if there was, that's how they told him how to do it.
Right.
Or they were like, do what you want, but it was the wrong fucking thing. It was completely fucking wrong.
And you look at his total screen time, I bet if you add it up, it's got to be less than 10 minutes, if not less than 5 minutes through the whole series.
Yeah, 100%. And he was a huge part of the book. I mean, there was like multiple chapters that were just him and his quest for the next big explosion, his quest for acceptance, you know, gaining understanding there in Vegas, and then ultimately finding
well, even his background, like he didn't get help as a kid, like he was showing signs that there was fucking stuff wrong,
right?
And instead, well, if this was the 70s, or I guess growing up he would have been like 60s or 70s, you're like, that dude's just fucking crazy, and you just leave fucking Crazy Joe alone and just stay away from him. So it's like there was no emotional connection at all. And even in the book towards the end, you're like, oh man, like he just wanted to make this one dude happy, and like that's all he wanted to do. And there was no feeling for him at all.
Yeah. Well, he's the character that brings in that Deus Machina, that changing moment of that
right, the
final explosion that brings the hand of God down, which that is another topic I thought was really well done, bringing the hand of God down to Vegas.
Yep.
But back to the Trash Can Man, like, yeah, you get no sense of his character.
Right.
This super well written guy.
Not only
basically all you see is this guy in his underwear who yanks off at explosions, and okay, well, there he is.
Right. Not only that, but there's this whole subplot of him being immune to Flag's like telepathy. Like Flag never knows where he is. He's just out there unseen, very much like some of the other characters that we see in the show. So none of that is touched upon in the show, which I think was kind of a missed opportunity. Seeing as we're kind of already on the subject, let's talk about things that I feel like the show got wrong, and then we'll end on things that the show got right. And on a positive.
That was my biggest one, was Trash Can Man.
Trash Can Man, I think, is a big one.
I really wish they had done the kid, even though he's not that.
Yeah.
And they kind of did it. Like I think the guy in the motorcycle gang jacket, I think that was supposed to be him.
I think that they were hinting at
because I did see something on him, and I was like, "Oh, that must be the kid." And then they just completely did something different.
Quick throwing out his jacket. The motorcycle gang was Kings of Discordia.
Oh yeah.
Oh, okay.
That's a little Dark Tower tossed in there.
That's cool. Yeah, I didn't notice that.
Oh, Discordia.
I did notice that they had the carpeting for The Shining was in several shots in there. And then in Henry, not Henry, what's
Stu?
No, the kid who turns against everybody, Lauder.
Oh, Harold.
Harold Lauder. In his bedroom, there's a poster of this band called King Crimson. And Court of the Crimson King is the album, which is, of course, the main bad guy in Dark Tower.
Also, they had the Eye of the Crimson King at the last couple scenes, and what I thought was kind of cool is they made it seem like it was morphed into possibly a rose or possibly the Eye of the Crimson King, which I thought was pretty cool. And I was really hoping, I was searching everywhere. I was like, dude, it would be so cool if they had, Roland with his quartet somewhere in the road, because they do cross over in Wizard and Glass. Yeah. They cross over and spend the night. I'm like, dude, somewhere in the road in the background, just have them camping.
It would have been fun if they just walked by a group of people camping together. And
it would have had to have been at Topeka, Kansas.
Yeah, exactly. Just someone, someone who's like on the road, like heading toward Mother Abigail or heading to Vegas, like just someone sees them, maybe like takes a look, like what the fuck, and that would have been.
They're like, "Are you going to Mother Abigail's house?" It's like, "No, we have our own journey to go on." And I'm like, "Oh shit!" And I would just shit my pants.
The big Roland reference was the poster in when the body crew is
when
searching
they're finding
through
the
houses,
DVDs.
and there's a poster that's very clearly the gunslinger, and it's like a movie poster, but the title of the movie is Dark Man.
Yeah.
On one of the walls, but that's Roland.
Yeah,
right there.
Of course. And of course, Dark Man is referring to Randall Flagg as well.
The walking dude.
The walking dude. As far as things that I think they got wrong, I think you're right. Trash Can Man is a big, egregious one. I think that all of New Vegas or the bad guy central camp was done poorly. I see why they did it, because you can't have nuance in a show that's supposed to be popular. Right? It's very hard to do that, because, most people are not going to be the super fans like us, where they want a true adaptation. Most people just want to be entertained and see what all the hubbub's about. And I think, when you read the book, all the people in Vegas were, not all of them were evil.
No, some were cops. Some were former cops.
Yeah, some were former cops, and some of them were good people. There's kids running around who were like, and there was families and things like that. Even the main lackey for the walking dude, what was his?
Oof, I forgot his name. I could get it.
Do you remember?
Yeah.
not Lloyd.
Yeah, Lloyd. Lloyd.
Yeah.
Lloyd. Yeah, you're right. Lloyd, at the end, like he was having doubts, and he was a respected member of that community. They weren't just having freaking, sex orgies all over the place and doing raves in casinos. That wasn't what it was about.
Well, and they also had an education system. Like they had a school.
You
you can use drugs, but you couldn't overindulge. Like you couldn't do that. There was a lot of stuff. He had a lot of rules.
You couldn't even do drugs. You could have beers and stuff. But
in the book, they crucified a guy, because he was doing drugs.
There you go,
yeah, exactly. So
and then Mother Abigail's, there were some people who didn't work. Like everyone on Flag's side worked. Everyone had a job. Everyone had to do stuff. Everyone contributed. Mother Abigail's side, even though they were really good, not everyone worked.
They ended up having to have police with guns, because there was the guy who threw Molotov cocktails at people's houses when he was drunk and stuff.
That's right.
And not only that, if you look at Mother Abigail's side, they sent a mentally handicapped man into the desert, into what they perceived as an evil camp by himself to spy.
I will say, even though he didn't get a lot of parts,
Tom Cullen was amazing.
He was amazing.
Yes.
Hands
down.
When they showed him, I texted Cody, I was like, I love him. If they change any bit of the story and someone fucking harms him, I'm fucking hurting someone.
Laws, yes. Yeah, Tom Collins was amazing. And when it comes to casting, I think that the show got a lot of it right. I was not a fan of Nadine. I feel like I don't know if it's necessarily what's her face's Amber Heard's fault or if it was just written poorly, but I just felt like, Nadine's character was always supposed to be kind of a reluctantly drawn to the dark man, right? With this one, it seemed like, no, she is fucking 100% in. She is going to be his bride and nothing's going to stop her. And then she has one little moment. She's like, maybe I shouldn't do this. Nah, fuck it. Let's go.
Well, she was like, fuck me, Larry.
Yeah.
Right now.
Right now.
But overall, she's just far too evil.
Right. She was way too evil. And maybe that's because Amber Heard's an evil person.
She's not supposed to be an active part of Harold when he takes his motorcycle accident. And in this version,
she did.
She's causing it, basically. And you miss that after she becomes pregnant.
Right.
There's supposed to be that almost catatonic reluctance to her, and that wasn't there. She was
still willing and
full on board.
Yeah.
And then just makes this massive switch just before she breaks and jumps out the window, which really it doesn't make sense if you're gung ho into being evil and the whole time.
Right.
What causes that snap decision?
Right, and I think a lot of that comes from how short the series is, because it takes time to explain. The whole time she's supposed to be this very reserved, quiet school teacher who definitely has feelings for Larry, and he has feelings for her, but she's kind of standoffish and everything. And then gradually you find out that she has this dark past to her, that she's been constantly drawn to the darkness. And then there's this switch where she finally gives in. She's like, I don't want to fight it anymore, whatever. So you can't have all of that. So all these snap decisions seem very sudden and abrupt because there's no time to explain it. When she only has 5 minutes of screen time an episode, there's not enough time to really show kind of that inner turmoil.
They also didn't do the murderous little kid. Because in the beginning, you're not too sure if this kid is fucking evil. If he's
Joe?
Yeah. And then they didn't give him the touch, obviously, or the shine, however.
They totally did.
They
kind of hinted it.
Redemption.
He straight up knows what happens. He's like, so-and-so's dead or whatever. It's like, wait, who's dead, Joe? And then
they did it at the end, and it was like, I mean, in the book, there's hints of it throughout the whole time.
Yeah, he there was parts of it in the show too. It was light, but
he was another important character that they kind of dropped the ball on.
Right.
Because the whole thing was he's wild and crazy and doesn't talk. And then once he gets to Boulder, he gets that sense of peace and relief.
Right.
Then he starts to talk, and you find out his name is Leo.
Right.
Never brought up.
Never brought up. They just kept him Joe the whole time in this one. Also, with Tom Cullen, even though I think the guy, we should look up the actor, but the guy who they got to play Tom Cullen, while he was awesome, I think that they skipped out on everything that had to do with him, where the whole reason that they were sending Tom Cullen into Vegas was that he had these like shining moments when he could prophesize essentially.
Yeah, Brad William Henke.
And they were supposed to hypnotize him.
Yeah, they were supposed to hypnotize him, and that's how he knows when to come back and what his objectives are. And like while he's hypnotized, he could also tell them things about what's happening over there. He had this psychic ability kind of thing. So that was kind of a bummer. I think one thing is that you have to pick and choose with Stephen King how supernatural you want to go. You know what I mean? And I mean, having the hand of God literally come down and, kill the bad guys at the end is a big pill to swallow in a TV show.
Now, I will say this is one where when I listened to the audiobook, I was like, I really disliked the hand of God part. I felt like, dude, like it felt like a cheat. Like, dude, you didn't give me the battle. Like, I really didn't like it, to be perfectly honest. And the 90s show, like when they showed the hand, I'm like, that was terrible. Now, what they did,
the 90s one was really bad.
In this one, I fucking loved. I'm like, okay, I had a bad imagination listening to the audiobook, but the way they did it looked great. Mm-hmm. Because it, like, yes, it kind of looks like a hand, but it also looks like a thunderstorm. And like what they did with the lightning, all of that was fucking great. The CG on it looked amazing when the lightning was killing everyone.
Oh man, that scene when they were just mowing through all the people in the hotel was awesome.
So that's one thing where I feel like did better than the book.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think they also kind of missed out on with Flag, though. I actually really enjoyed most of him. Like, I think, what's his name? Eric Skarsgård?
Yes. Alexander
Skarsgård. I think he did a very good job for the most part, but they kind of skipped out on a lot of the part where, he starts losing his abilities or he starts like gaining memories of his past lives, which kind of like, open up to the viewer or reader that he's been around a lot longer than just recently. He's an kind of an eternal force.
Quasi-immortal is the way he's described.
Yeah, exactly. So they kind of hinted at some of it, like when he stops being able to levitate and things like that, but it was really more of a slow burn in the book. You realize that he's losing control more and more. He can't see as much as he used to see, and they kind of glossed over that, I feel like, in the show.
I mean, and one of the things I really liked in the book is that he would transform into a crow or transform into like a wolf, and he would like kill people, like some of his followers, like who he didn't like do. He would go full on vicious.
Right.
They didn't show any of that. The wolf stuff was basically in dream aspects.
Right. I felt like they handled the telepathic part of the book really well. I think it worked really well, going through the cornfield and showing up at Mother Abigail's house, or seeing him like he's always by the fire in the desert kind of thing.
I wish he had done more fucking smiling, because in the book, like, he's creepy because he's he's pretending to be a nice guy, but he really fucking isn't. Like, he took it more serious, which is fine. It's not that big of a bother, but to me, that's what made the Walking Dude kind of like an awesome villain, was that he was always toying with you. He was always playing with you. Like, he always, like, you thought you knew something, and he was like, no, I'm 3 steps ahead of you. Like, I know what the fuck you're doing. Yeah,
that's true. Well, when he gets stabbed in the neck, that was amazing. I thought that scene was good.
When he said, like, I learned that trick from an actor or something.
He's like, I learned that. Yeah, I forget what he said. He pulls it out. He's like, oh, God. And it's just instantly gone. Yeah, I think now I like that they kept in his ending, too.
His new ending, because that wasn't actually
That's true. That was in the unabridged version, right? Where he, like, basically shows up at this tribe that's never been contacted by man in the Amazon or whatever. So of course they've all survived Captain Trips, but then he goes in there and basically becomes their god kind of thing.
And then he gets his powers back. Although he had a little bit, because he did go boom boom. He did Eldritch Blast when he was just
yeah, that was crazy when he just like started blowing people's heads off. I was like, yeah. And he was also naked, and then he's like, worship me. That was pretty fun.
I did, even though it was different from the book, I did like what they did, the extra stuff where it goes back to
with
Franny and Stu. Like, that was kind of cool. Like, they added something extra that explained some stuff
with them literally meeting God. That was kind of
cool. That whole last episode, they're calling it the Coda, was written by Stephen King.
Yeah.
That was his only real input.
Oh, dope! I didn't know that.
The whole new miniseries, yeah. So that whole story of Franny falling in the well at the end, and the new, little black girl that has healing powers is the new Mother Abigail. That's all from Stephen King. That was his major input into this new series.
Maybe that's why I loved it so much.
Yeah.
Yep.
So I thought that the new black girl, I thought that was actually supposed to be God.
Oh no, I thought it was like a young version of Mother Abigail, or maybe like her spirit that was allowed to come and help.
Maybe.
Well, it just fits into. I mean, the title of the episode was closing the circle, or the circle closes.
Yeah.
Multiple times in the episode, they're referencing, it's just another turn of the wheel, or the wheel keeps turning. Yeah. Which anyone who's a Dark Tower fan knows, like, that's a big motif. And
right.
And that's a lot of people are even referring this whole new series as like, it's The Stand, but it's in another turn of the wheel.
Yeah. Okay. That makes sense.
That's where the differences come in.
Yeah.
I mean, that would be cool.
Take it or leave it.
I mean, I'm glad that they don't confirm it, but that actually would have been cool. Like, that's why some things are different, because it's the next round and things didn't end up exactly how it was.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Which is what they tried to do with the very bad Dark Tower movie,
God, I don't want to talk about that one. I get so heated.
Do you see the casting?
I get so heated.
Have you seen the casting for the show they were gonna do?
I don't want to look at it anymore because it's not happening.
It actually looked great.
Yeah, I know.
It did.
I know.
I was reading on IMDb what they were going to do. They were going to start off in Mexis and go move the story forward. And I actually read some of the plot points, and I'm like, this would have been fucking amazing.
Yeah.
I'm like, why didn't they fucking do this? This would have been great. It's like, it would have been the Dark Tower that, the story that it deserved.
Right.
I have my theory on that, and it goes back to what we were talking about earlier. It's because they couldn't put their story into 9 episodes.
Probably.
Yep. And if you can't give them a quick taste of what the show's going to be like, then the major studios aren't going to throw money at you.
Which is so crazy.
I hope one day it fucking happens.
I don't understand that mentality, because I mean, okay, yes, you see things like Stranger Things, right? Stranger Things, the 110 episode arc in the beginning is its own self-contained story, and that worked like gangbusters. It was huge, right? It even in some ways affected how popular D&D has gotten, right? It definitely had a play in that, but then you look at something like Game of Thrones. Like Game of Thrones is like, when they set out to make it, they knew that there was 4 books out already, or I guess when they started it was probably 3 books. But they knew that this was going to be multiple seasons and a huge endeavor, and they took a chance on it, and it turned into like the biggest TV show of all time.
What doesn't make sense to me is like, oh wait, you want multiple seasons so I can keep these people paying my subscription for like years?
Yeah.
Why would I want to do that? It's fucking insane. It's crazy to me.
I don't get
Genius.
it.
And then they take something that was successful in doing that and then just chop it off the head.
Right. And not only that, but like The Stand is this. Yeah, Game of Thrones. God damn it. I still get heated about that one. But The Stand was, or I guess I should say is, one of Stephen King's best-selling books. Not that he has a few of those. He has a shit ton of best-selling books. But The Stand was one of the all-time greatest selling ones, over, only topped by, I think, The Shining, Carrie.
I don't know on his
I think
it recently.
Yeah, so there's been a couple that sold more than it, but it is one of his biggest selling books. And when it came out in book form, they were like, dude, you can't have a book that's over 1,000 pages. No one's going to read this thing.
I think they made him cut out like 400 or something.
And that's why we have that now unabridged version, is because they're like, you have to cut it down. So he cut down what he thought needed to be taken out. And of course, when it came out, it was so good that everyone read it anyway. Kind of paving the way for people like freaking Brandon Sanderson, who writes giganto books.
They gave him the option too. They were like, you can cut out 400 pages
or we can cut out 400.
I don't know which I would have done. I was like, well, if you're going to fuck up my story, then you might as well fucking do it.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, he did it himself though.
Yeah. If you're going to,
I can see why it's one of his best sellers. I mean, I have 5 different copies of it, whether it's the unabridged version or a new cover that I liked, or, on my bookshelf right now, 5 different hardcover copies of The Stand.
Yeah. And I mean, it's just one of those, doesn't matter when it takes place. it's always a relevant story. And I mean, for it to come out when it did, when we're in the middle of a real pandemic, it, it's funny to see some of the parallels that we've seen through COVID, where the government's telling you to relax and not take it too seriously. Meanwhile, they're taking cover in bunkers and shit like that. And then how different sides react to it and things like that. So
I'd say we should mention the stuff that we did like, because
sure.
I mean, we criticize the stuff we didn't because we're huge fucking fans of the story.
Yeah, we like to nitpick.
Sorry, can I bring up a couple?
Oh yeah.
The not liking.
Sure.
And it all can be condensed into, they took the darkness out of it.
Mm-hmm.
We mentioned earlier they took the kid out.
Right.
That character was crazy. I mean, he takes his gun and shoves it up Trash Can Man's ass just before they get attacked by a gang of wolves.
Yeah.
All sent by the Dark Man to protect Trash Can Man, which is that gives a different level to their relationship. Right. Or Mother Abigail. Originally, she has them meet in is it Kansas or Arkansas?
It was,
but not Colorado originally.
It was Nebraska, I think it was, right?
Nebraska.
Yeah.
Hemingford Home was a different town in Nebraska, and then there's this whole chapter, maybe even 2 chapters, that's just solely focused on her, where she goes out to the neighbors, kills a couple of chickens, and on the way home is attacked by these like weasels.
Yeah, and she bakes her own biscuits.
That actually I did like that part, because it did show like how awesome she was, or how badass. Like, she wasn't just like the prophet lady. She did go out and and do things.
Had that courage to fight off all these weasels. And
she was a tough old lady.
Also, they didn't. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
I was just continuing. You got the wolves that were taken out, the weasels that were taken out, the stew escaping from the facility, all that dark, suspenseful escape. Even the Lincoln Tunnel with Larry Underwood.
Tunnel.
Yeah,
that was.
They kind of hinted at it with him in the sewers, but reading that originally in the book, that scene of him walking through this pitch black tunnel and feeling the dead bodies under his feet and thinking they're grabbing him and hearing noises,
having a panic attack,
nightmares as a kid.
Oh yeah. One of the things that they also missed too, I don't know if you were getting to it, but the whole trip back from Vegas with Stu, Tom Cullen, and Kojak. That was one of my favorite scenes in winter. Yeah.
Just blizzard in.
And they have like Christmas together, and like Stu goes out and finds presents. I mean, that was one of my favorite scenes in the entire book.
Getting rabbits for him to feed.
Kojak, like bringing him food and stuff, and the medication down in the pit. Like, you really missed out on a lot of that good stuff at the end too.
And that's again, I know some of them were cut for time.
Mm-hmm.
But I feel like some of those were really important into establishing that battle line, of good and evil, and then establishing that explanation as to why certain people decided to go to Vegas instead of Boulder.
Yeah.
Also, I wanted to say, like, Mother Abigail, like, she didn't all the time wanted to do God's will. Like, she at times hated, I hate that I'm living this fucking long. Like, I hate like that I have to do this. Yeah. Like, but it's God's will, so I have to do it. And she did it anyway. And we missed all of that. Yeah,
I think a lot of what was cut out was the internal conflict that a lot of the characters face. Right. We don't see a lot about Franny and how, like, I think that they really changed her character, where she, tries to kill herself and Harold ends up saving her. I don't remember that in the book at all. And I read it like 2 months ago. And, they really kind of, her decision to go with Harold, and like, she actually really likes Harold, as a person,
as a friend
throughout the beginning of it. And it's only later on when she starts, but in this one, she just from day one, she was just like, no, this guy's a creeper. She
wasn't wrong.
I mean, she's not wrong, but part of that journey shows like how like this event changes people, or accentuents parts of people's personality, and that was kind of missed in the show.
There was always a series of doubt with her, with Harold, because it just calls back in my mind to one of the scenes from the book. It wasn't in the show, where she actually, after that initial, she tells him to go away, she seeks him out.
Right.
And comes to him, and he's
mowing the lawn, crying.
Mowing his lawn in the underwear, crying hysterically.
Yeah.
And that, again, that you missed out on that vulnerability.
It humanizes him a little bit, you know?
This young kid.
Yeah. Yeah, you do, you know, you miss out on a lot of those little moments that really play into where all these characters end up. You really don't get much of Stu and Franny, like, getting together. They're just instantly together also. So that
happened on the road, dude.
It happened. That's a road
road
story. Yeah.
There was one in the show. There was one hug.
Yeah.
And then they were together.
Yeah, exactly. I really did you know, going to stuff that I did like though.
Glenn.
I loved Glenn.
Genius cast.
Greg Kinnear.
Yeah.
Fucking nailed it. He, you know, that was just perfect casting, and him and James Marsden had such great chemistry together. It was just like, I loved it.
He really embodied the character where it's like, okay, yes, I've seen the visions that you've seen, but maybe it's still some scientific, like maybe we're all just hallucinating the same thing. Maybe we think we had the same thing. Like all of his reasoning behind is like a classic character, because that's exactly what he was. Like, no, I'm not going to believe in this God stuff. And then again, the book later on, he does. He's like, all right, man, well, it's there.
Yeah.
He's that scientific, doubting devil's advocate that plays both sides of the coin with his hippie lifestyle, and in the show he's got his vape pen.
Yeah,
Ooh.
Exactly. I liked it. Modernized it a little. I like that. I thought like Greg Kinnear, I think did great. I think like a Bradley Whitmore would have been good too. The guy from The West Wing and Billy Madison. You know the bad guy in Billy Madison.
Yeah.
Oh, he's too old. That's the thing.
But Glenn was supposed to be an older guy.
Yeah, I think this age, like they got it.
I mean, it was fine. It was fine the way it is. I just, when I was reading the book, I read Glenn as him.
You know why? Because I feel like he's always too villainish. And this guy, you can go either way. You know, you can see him as a good guy. You can see him as a villain. He's got the right balance, I feel.
Okay. Well, you should watch The West Wing because Bradley Whitmore was fantastic.
All right.
And he saved the day.
Oh, I know you're talking about now from Get Out.
Yes, right? The dad from Get Out.
Okay, sorry. Yeah. Yes. Yeah.
Sorry, you're older than me. I thought Billy Madison and The West Wing would fucking make the connection. But you're right. A movie that came out 5 years ago is him too. Yeah, he would be good though, right?
I agree.
He was also in Cabin in the Woods.
Yes.
Yeah, he was one of the guys.
The mermaid.
Yeah, the mermaid. Yeah, that's right.
Merman.
Any other ones, Tim, that you had that you really enjoyed, like good things on it?
Good things. Oh, there was a lot of great things.
Yeah.
And I just went back and watched the series again for a second time. And through that second round, I was able to pick on a little more of the subtle things that I didn't notice. And just off the top of my head, the one that's freshest in my mind, like I said, just finished it, was some of the small characteristics that these actors brought to their characters. For example, you don't really, it's not a big key point. In the beginning of the book, there's this whole issue about how Franny doesn't like to laugh and like giggles and then covers her mouth while she giggles and tries to hide her laughing. And that comes in at the very last episode. I see her like start to laugh, and then while she's having the conversation with Flag in kind of the dream world, she like starts to laugh, but then covers her mouth and stops herself. And I was like, light bulb, like, oh wow,
yeah. There's a bunch of cool little things where, you know, they put it in there just so you know they're like, hey, look, we read the book too. It's in here, but you know, we just didn't have enough time to really
things that wouldn't be important to someone who doesn't know the story.
Sure. Exactly. But it, you know, us as people who've read it multiple times, I think, you know, we can pick that kind of stuff out.
And the thing with Harold Lauder and practicing his smile like Tom Cruise.
That was good.
What a weird choice to be Tom Cruise, and it worked out well, but it brought back that memory in my head of, oh, there was that whole not chapter, but a couple pages of
him learning how to smile,
practicing, putting on that facade.
Yeah. And in the way that the actor did it a couple of times where someone would be like, you know, hey, Harold, and he turns around like all stern and then he kind of plasters it on real quick. Like, it was really good. That guy did probably the best job of any of the actors.
He was a great pick.
A hard character to do.
Even though, like, he didn't look anything like the character in the book.
Sure,
but because he has that whole redemption. Well, not redemption, but like he's like, you know what? I want to be liked. I want to be like this quote unquote alpha guy, and he starts working out, and people start seeing him differently. I'm like, oh, okay, like. Yeah. They didn't take the time to do that, but it was still like that actor was great. Like. Yeah. To do the fucking crazy, but also pretend to be a nice guy.
And a pivotal character in the whole story. I think that they did really well. I like that. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, he got his little redemption with his note at the end where he signed it Hawk.
Mm-hmm. When the dude died and he was like, run Hawk. I was like, oh, like not knowing that like Harold had betrayed him.
I know. Yeah, that was sad. I think that, a lot of those little moments that they put in there were very good. I really liked that they changed. I think his name was Roy to Ray, the Native American lady at the end.
Was it Ray in the book, or was it?
I think it was Roy, or
Ralph.
Ralph. That's what it was. I knew it was our name.
Yeah, Ralph.
Yeah, I thought that was fine. I think she did a really good job, and she at the end. With her and Larry in the swimming pool, and the way that they changed it to that swimming pool, I think was a little bit. It played better on TV, on the screen. I think in the book it was like there was cages where they had two trucks and they were going to pull them apart, kind of thing, by shackling one into another. Doesn't read as well on TV.
Going back to the Native American character, it was a small thing, but I did love when they were like, oh, what about water? How are we going to find water? And they like kind of turn to her. He's like, oh, because I'm Native American, I'm going to know where to find water? And they're like, They're
like, yeah. I guess. I mean, do you? She's like,
yes.
Yes. Come on. That was so good. I liked it. Yeah, she was great. I forget what her name is, but she was like, all of those characters were really, I really liked the guy that got to play Larry Underwood. I could have used a little bit more Baby Can I Dig Your Man.
Right? I wanted to hear the song.
Yeah. They like.
Well, you only hear it one time.
Yeah, I know.
And when they're walking after the guys pick them up on their trip to Vegas.
Yeah.
And bring them in and like usher them into the casino. That's the song that's playing in the background.
Yeah, and he plays it a little bit at the like a baseball stadium or something that they're at. Like he plays it a little on.
It was a small thing, but I remember and I liked it in the book where he takes that one girl home, and then he's like, oh, I gotta go, like I gotta check him out, and she's like, you ain't no nice guy,
you ain't no nice guy.
And I was like, oh, that was dope, like because that's where his balance is, like he wants to be a nice guy, but he sometimes does the wrong thing, but he is a good person.
Right. They skipped out so much of his backstory.
Oh, yeah.
Like getting the huge record deal, going to the beach house and blowing all of his money and getting into debt and just doing coke all weekend long. And
that's where you see it was like, man, like he is a good person, but he makes some stupid choices sometimes.
Yeah, exactly. So they cut out so much of that. It was hard. It was like, oh, this guy, so he liked to party a little bit when he played shows. It was like, no, he did a bunch of bad stuff.
With all like his quote unquote friends actually just using him for his money and drugs. Yeah.
Right.
Well, that nice guy scene, that was another one of those moments that I was referencing earlier that like is an aha moment for someone who's read the story. And they're like, oh yeah, that was in the book. That was another one of the examples of those scenes that you may not realize the importance of if you don't know the story and the progression.
Right. Yeah, 100%.
That sets up his struggle.
Right. Him wanting to be or feeling guilty about not being a good dude, but still not doing anything to kind of work against it. He just keeps making terrible decisions. And
then he does a good thing, escapes the city with Rita Blakemore.
Yeah.
Things are going good, and then all of a sudden she kills herself.
Right.
I'm actually surprised they did Rita. I honestly thought they were going to cut that out.
Yeah.
Like, for sure. But
and what's her name? Heather Graham? Is that what's her name? Yeah. She did a great Rita.
Oh,
like the way she was like, like smiling, but also sad on the inside. Like she did an excellent job portraying that character.
There was that sense of detachment with her.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Yep.
That read really well.
Exactly.
I actually did enjoy how like Larry was like sad that she had died, but he was also more kind of pissed off too. Like, she abandoned me, like she left me.
Yeah, it was an inconvenience for him that she had died. Like, look, I finally put myself out there and now you do this to me.
Yeah.
It's always focusing on him. Like his mom said, you're a taker, Larry. You're not a giver.
Yeah.
And I kind of wish they would have put that scene, that discovery scene, because that's one that always stood out to me in the books.
Yeah.
Because they're sleeping in the tent together. He wakes up. It's the 4th of July. He goes out of the tent and he's just like pissing into the wilderness, singing a song, and
cooking her breakfast and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah.
But so it's they cut out a bunch of good stuff. So overall thoughts, guys, just to wrap it up, people should watch it.
Yes, 100%.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I'd say overall it's a good adaptation. I think they did the best they could have done with the parameters that they set for themselves. Yes, I think a longer series would have been better, but I don't think that this is in any way a bad show. So
no, it was great.
Definitely great. Lots of good choices in there. Lots of cool set pieces and stuff.
When I finished it, my first thought was like, I hope this gets more track for The Dark Tower.
Well, we're in a golden age of Stephen King. I think that he's always struggled with film adaptations, but now I think largely because of Game of Thrones, and how well it did, and how well an adaptation of a book series did. I think studios are more willing to take second looks at some of these things. So, and with Stephen King, the It Chapter 1 and Chapter 2, I thought were very good adaptations of the book, of a very hard book to adapt to.
Actually, really great. I thought the deadlights that they did was like, that was exactly how in my mind I imagined it. Like, that's exactly how I saw the deadlights.
Yeah. And then we also had Doctor Sleep, which people fucking slept
on that movie. So good.
It was very good, and the way they tied that to the Shining movie,
the movie and the book, they married it like so well.
Yeah. So that, and then now we have this one. Pet Sematary was also very good.
I enjoyed it. Some people had some issues with it, but I liked it.
Fuck those people. Tim's one of those people. I could see in his face.
It was 50-50 for me.
It was fine. Pet Sematary was never one of my favorite books anyway, so maybe I wasn't as hard on it. But now again, we have The Stand, which I think was a very good adaptation, and so I'm seeing a positive trend, in Stephen King works, which gives me hope for hope for some Dark Tower.
Because you say we're in the golden age of Stephen King. I have to slightly disagree. I think we've been in the golden age.
Yeah.
Because if you look at some of the productions, even his lesser known stuff, he's been getting stuff out there for a long time.
Sure.
Whether it be Apt Pupil, Shawshank Redemption, The Green Mile.
Yeah, Shawshank Redemption and Green Mile are very good.
Gerald's Game.
Getting Gerald's Game on Netflix. They did Swing and a Miss with Under the Dome.
Oh, yeah. I forgot about Under the Dome. I never finished that.
Going as far back into the
was it
80s,
1962? The other one, or was it 1962? 1963? I forgot.
No, 11/22/63.
There we go. That's the one.
That was good, but that was a very recent. That was a very recent one.
Yeah.
But yeah, Cujo was fine. Carrie, obviously, or was the book called Firestarter? One of them's called Firestarter. One's called Carrie.
Carrie's the movie.
Doesn't matter.
2 different books, 2 different movies.
Oh, really?
I didn't know. Cat's Eye was fucking
doesn't
amazing.
Matter. But that one with Sissy Spacek was good, and I think there's been some good adaptations. Misery, some good ones for the time.
Dude, we didn't mention Maximum Overdrive. I mean, come on.
Maximum Silver Bullet.
Yeah, Silver Bullet. Oh. Yeah, or the Langoliers. What about the Langoliers?
Oh, goodness.
Yeah. So there's been
even like Secret Window.
Yeah, that's true. Secret Window. Again, so there has been some really good adaptations.
Sleepwalkers.
Yeah.
But the thing is that I agree with you on is now that they're getting traction.
Now,
fan support. They're getting that advertisement, that marketing ability to it, and people are eating it up.
Right. Well, I think that's the thing too, is that most of his books don't lend themselves well to just a movie. Most of them, he does a very good job building character, creating a world or an environment that takes a long time to tell that story. And so now with the rise in popularity of these like limited series or, straight up television streaming series, I think that now we're starting to see more of his more interesting stories be told and told correctly without cutting out huge parts of it. The Outsider was another one we forgot to mention. That
Outsider,
I thought that was a good adaptation.
Mr. Mercedes.
I haven't read the books, haven't seen the show yet.
Yeah. So, I think that now that we're starting to see more of those, it gives me hope going forward to see some more Stephen King stuff.
We're just the adaptations are always hard.
Yeah.
Something that we didn't even touch on was how do you bring this inner dialogue of a deaf mute to the screen?
Right. I feel like they did a good job. Just having Franny just know sign language for some reason.
They had to get his thoughts out there somewhere.
No explanation, though. No line of dialogue. Oh, I took a little ALS in high school. And she was just like, no, she just instantly knew it.
We're just hoping that with some of his newer work that he's coming out with, that he learns how to write a solid ending.
Right.
Because that's his Achilles heel with his stories.
I've never had an issue. I know that's a known thing. I've never really had an issue. I don't know.
There's been books that I did not care for the ending on. Like, honestly, The Stand is not for the epic scale of the book that it was not the perfect ending for me. I liked it for what it is because the book is just so good.
Yeah.
But there could have been something better. But I love the end of The Dark Tower. I know that's kind of a divisive thing.
Nah, that was an amazing ending. We're not going to get into it. Don't want to ruin it for anyone who hasn't read it because you have to.
It was great. My thing is his endings. My biggest problem with his endings is they all feel rushed.
They feel rushed and like sometimes they just don't satisfy.
Even with some of his newer work, The Institute. Great story. I loved reading it, and it has this really epic ending. Mm-hmm. But it's all within like 2 chapters. Like, it just blows through, and you're like, "Whoa, wait, what just happened? I need to go back and like reread this."
Yeah, maybe he'll now that he's seeing more of his stuff played out and how they changed some of the stuff, like how they changed the mist. He always said that I thought that they did a better job than I did on the book. So maybe now that he sees other people kind of helping him finish these stories.
I don't remember who I saw the mist with, but they were so pissed off at the ending. I'm like, no, that was fucking awesome.
Yeah,
that was a fucking great ending.
You should read the book because that was dog shit. Awesome. Well, thanks, Tim, for taking the time and talking with us. It's nice. We talk about Stephen King a lot on this show, but it's mostly just to each other. So it's nice to get a third party in this. And, someone who can bounce ideas back, who knows what we're talking about. So thanks for joining us. We appreciate it.
Of course. Anytime you need me, I'm here.
Oh, I'm down.
King, that's my topic, man.
There we go. Yeah, we'll have to have you back on once the next thing comes out. So,
all right.
We really need to do a full Dark Tower one, but like it seems kind of weird not having a show to bounce or a movie to bounce off.
We'll see. There'll be an appropriate time, hopefully, when we can talk about Dark Tower. But let us know what you guys think. Did you guys watch The Stand? And what are your thoughts? Have you read the book? Did you not read the book? And how did that affect kind of your viewing experience? Let us know on Facebook, Instagram, or Twitter at Nerds with Friends. Find all that information at nerdswithfriendspodcast.com. And again, you can support the show at patreon.com/nerdswithfriends. And just a couple dollars a month, and you can support the show, help us get new things for our set, for our website, things like that. So we appreciate you.
Actually, guys. For Tim, anything we should
Tim, highlight? You want to plug in your Instagram or Facebook or anything?
No, I'm just gonna piggyback on you guys for now.
Okay. How about your fiance's what's it called? Stationery company.
She's got an Etsy shop. If anyone likes stationery, the old-fashioned handwritten letters with wax seal that really home heartfelt to it. Check her out on Etsy. Or Etsy shop's Crimson Hour.
Yeah, there you go.
Got some fun stuff, all themed. In fact, she just released a Lord of the Rings set.
Ooh, better watch out. The Tolkien family's going to come after her.
Really fancy stuff. And
they sued a lady who was like a professional Elvish translator. They went after her. I'm like, what the fuck? It's a made up.
Don't you guys have enough money?
Yeah, you have enough money. Leave that lady alone.
We'll make sure and try to add links maybe.
We'll post it up on the website. So thanks, Tim. We appreciate you, and we'll see you next week on TNT or the week after.
All right.
All right, buddy. And Christian, thank you as always for joining me and talking Stephen King. And to all the nerds out there, remember, you're not alone. You're with friends. This is Nerds with Friends. Thank you and good night.